What's up, everyone? We are Joystick Jargon. I'm Sebastian.
And I'm Gavin.
And today we're going to talk about, is couch co-op dead? A big component in gaming, and do you think it's removed now?
Unfortunately, yes. I think I would say that the couch co-op is dead, or is at least on its last legs. I think that games that used to have it as not necessarily a focal point, but at least an important part of the game, is now not at all included, or included only as an afterthought, as we've seen with Uncharted 4. It's being released as DLC, whereas Uncharted 3 actually had quite a good co-op feature set.
That was in the game initially.
Absolutely,
It wasn't an afterthought. I would say couch co-op is dead, although it shouldn't be. It seems to be like such a base component of video games. If you look at like all the previous iterations of consoles, like the Super Nintendo and Nintendo 64, and then leading up to now, it seems like it's kind of gotten like further, and like with each generation of consoles, we're seeing fewer and fewer games that implement it, and the ones that do implement it aren't. It's not as developed or well-rounded, or is, as you say, like an afterthought, and that's kind of disheartening to me because it seems to be such a inherent component of video games. You're just sitting on the couch with your friends and just fucking around and having a good time.
No, absolutely, and I think that's kind of where I have a problem, I suppose, with saying that it is dead, because it's very disappointing to me. I don't really think there's been any sort of societal shift away from sitting with a friend and playing video games on your couch. I mean, Seb and I, you and I have done that fairly frequently for the last month or so, and
we love it.
And yeah, we do. But I don't think we're unique in that. I think a lot of other people also hang out with their friends, play games on their on one console,
or at least would like to,
or
don't have the kind of gaming options available to them.
Looking at games, like I know my friends used to run through the Halo campaigns together all the time. I used to play Vegas 2 with my friends, which I'll talk about a little bit later, and I've had a lot of experiences with friends playing video games, and it's very disappointing because I don't think people have left that. I think a lot of people are enjoying the convenience of connecting online, not having to leave their house to play with friends, and that is fine, but I don't think people are throwing couch co-op by the wayside as much as developers are, or think they are, I suppose.
And like going off that developer point, it's really frustrating to me because multiplayer seems to be such a focal point for new game development. Like the example of Destiny, The Division, Steep, the Ubisoft snowboarding game, where they're making games where they're like, this has to be multiplayer. People have to be able to play this with their friends. But fuck, they can't do it together. They have to do it at their own houses. And it's like, I understand the reasoning for that, but to completely eliminate the ability to play with your friend, especially games like we said Uncharted 4, where that was such a staple of it, and to some extent Battlefront, or
doing Galactic Conquest on Battlefront. Although, to be fair, they removed all of Galactic Conquest, so that's not necessarily a fair.
But like a Call of Duty, like the old Call of Duties, you could go online with your guests. You can't do that anymore, and it's like, I guess it's because like, oh, fucking go buy your own system, buy your own game. Yeah. But there's something inherently fun like going over to your friend's house and just 4 people going on. And I remember you talking about like the guest profiles as being the one.
Yeah. And you'd be like, yeah, okay, that guy's doing shit on my team, but oh wait, he's got a 1 beside his name, so he's a guest. So you know that, and that was prolific. That was going on pretty much every match that we play. To be fair, half the time it was myself on my friend's Xbox.
Gavin's a shit one. But like for an example of co-op or couch co-op or couch anything done very well, you can't not mention Nintendo. Nintendo does it fucking beautifully. And it seamlessly integrates it into their games. It doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel like they went into the development saying, we gotta make a couch co-op game. Like, I'll use the example of Pokemon Stadium for the N64. They had the base Pokemon game where it's, you get your Pokemon, you fight them, similar to the Game Boy games, and you went to Elite Four, did gym battles and all that. And then they had the separate component, which was the mini games, which when you say Pokemon Stadium on 64, that's what everyone thinks of. They think of the fucking Clefairy game where you have to dance, or the Magikarp game, or the Sand Slash game, and it's like it wasn't the main focus of the development, but it was an equal part and was what people, I think, enjoyed most about it. And then you go to Super Mario 3D Land on the Wii U, where you play single player and you go through the levels, but you play with 2, 3, or 4 other people, and it doesn't detract, just those characters drop onto the map, you all play together, and it's multi-layered gameplay, whereas it can be competitive, because the winner at the end of the match is like a a leaderboard of like who scored the most coins or enemies or stars,
Sure.
and that individual gets a crown, and then everyone can fight to steal the crown from that person. If you finish the match with the crown, you get extra points, and it puts a big target on your back. And you can play it and not give a fuck who has the crown, or that can be essential, like everyone gangs up on the individual with the crown. Who needs to get to the star first? So it becomes a very competitive, like your palms are sweaty, you're rushing around frantically, or it doesn't have to be. Or you don't have to play it at all. It doesn't detract from the game, and it adds a substantial layer to it. And that's just completely missing in game development now, where it's like, play online, no one really cares.
Yeah, so I guess one last point to make kind of on that last play online, no one really cares. A good example of that, as I mentioned earlier, is Vegas 2 and the new Rainbow Six Siege. Vegas 2 was a game that my friends and I used to play all the time on Friday nights. We would just get together, 3 or 4 of us, 2 people would play at a time, and we would pass the controls around whenever both people died and it was a game over. And it was a blast. Even if you weren't playing, you were, there's a guy around the corner, look to your right.
You were engaged.
Exactly, you were engaged, things like that. And the 2 people who were playing were just side by side, talking to each other. I'm going left, or we're going into this room now, or keep an eye above, things like that. It was really, really intense, and there was just something extra, something special about being there with your friends doing this. It was... My parents didn't fully understand it, obviously, as most parents.
Shut up, Gavin!
It would be 1 a.m. and we'd be screaming like, "Oh my God, where'd Megan shot from?" And my parents would be like, "It's 1 a.m. I'm trying to fucking sleep." But and that's missing from Siege. I only played the beta. Seb has more experience with Siege than I do. But in the beta, Terrorist Hunt was only online with other people. And while there's still quite a good game mode, it's still fun. It's lacking that extra little element of togetherness and cohesion that really, for me, exemplified the Vegas 2 Terrorist Hunt.
And I find, like, with Coach Co-op, like, I just kind of popped into my head, like, you and I playing Vegas 2, it was very much like we were in it. We're like, okay, go around that door. Okay, cover me from this wall. Okay, I'm going to go in this room, you watch the window over there. And when Anthony and I would play Terrorist Hunt on Siege, we were just, like, talking about other shit. And it just felt like it was just a platform for us to talk.
Yeah.
It wasn't like we were playing it together. I could have been playing it with anyone in voice chatting over to Anthony, and there wasn't something like, I wouldn't know that I was like there with Anthony. Whereas with you, it's like you're right there, like everyone, you're really into it. Yeah. When someone dies, it's like, okay, in 5 seconds, I'll come back. Like, hold on, and you're just so much more invested, and that, like, it really like speaks to the benefits of having someone like directly beside you as opposed to.
Yeah, I guess there's like a level of intimacy with you and with the game at the same time.
Intimacy.
Yeah.
Ooh.
But I know there's a little intimacy between you and your friend and the game. When you're all there in the same room, it's a lot more, we're here to play this game and hang out, but we're going to do it through the medium of this game.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're connecting with someone who's not in the room, you're like, I haven't seen them, I'll talk to them, and the game is just kind of...
background noise.
Yeah, and it's kind of like the tube that connects you from room to room, whereas this is, you're really there for the game, but also to hang out.
And I'll use the example. So this past weekend it was Canada Day, and a bunch of people came up to the apartment, and I had been like gushing about Nintendo Land. Oh, it's so fucking great! You guys are gonna love it. The Luigi game. And so I couldn't speak more highly about Nintendo Land as a proof of concept for the Wii U. It's phenomenal. And so when the time finally came and we sat everyone down to go play, it was like, it took a little bit for everyone to kind of click and define their roles. We're playing the Luigi's Mansion game, but one individual with the gamepad, if you're not familiar with Nintendo Land, one individual has the gamepad and they're the ghost. And the other 4 people look on the screen, and it's and they have flashlights, and they have to work together to find the ghost, whereas the ghost has to navigate, find everyone, and try to like abduct them, for lack of a better term. And so we initially played, and you could see the fundamental shifts when individuals were playing different positions. When someone was the ghost, there'd be a huge shift in power, or someone who wasn't as good, and you'd really have to like rally together. And it was really evident when I like relegated myself to the Ghostbuster position, and then immediately everyone was kind of like, okay, so we're gonna come over here, we're gonna side strafe. Okay, let's meet in the middle. Okay, my controller's vibrating. What's your controller doing? And it just like immediately everyone like revigorated. And it was... and
everyone kind of fed off each other as well. So,
yeah.
2 people might have been a little less excited to start than the other 2. I'm not sure. Because I can't read minds. But...
You can't?
Yeah, unfortunately. But from maybe 5 minutes in, everyone was absolutely hooked. and it was kind of just everyone feeding off other emotions, which again isn't really possible as much over a headset.
Yeah, and that video, actually, we have a video of us playing that, and it's phenomenal. That's going to be right there. We're going to give you a moment, and you're going to click it.
And then pause it, so you can keep watching this one.
Yeah.
And let that one buffer.
Good job. All right, yes, but it was, and that's like such a proof that it's a timeless concept. Like after all these years, like that was like the game that bundled with the Wii U, and it shows like how it's still relevant for Nintendo.
Yeah.
And it still works like amazingly, and which is kind of disappointing for the Wii U for me because there's so much opportunity for that. But that's a time discussion for another time in another video. But essentially, just as a summation,
yes.
What would you say in terms of Couch Co-op?
I think we've made a pretty good case for why it is dead, but I hope that you guys kind of agree with at least some of our points in reminiscing about why we don't want it to be so. Mm-hmm. We would like it to continue. We would like it to stay a core part of gaming, and
so go buy Nintendo Land.
Exactly, and we would like to see it have a revival, I suppose, in the future.
Because there's so many opportunities for it, like with all like the Call of Duties, the Uncharted game now doing it for DLC, all these multiplayer centric games that keep coming out, and it just add it. Maybe not everyone's gonna play it, but like. Those who will play it, the amount of enjoyment you can get, the amount of hours you can sink to those games. Like I can't think of a game now, an online game especially, that I've sunk more hours into than like a couch co-op game of old. Like you're talking about playing, we played Rainbow Six Vegas 2 this week.
Yeah, and we've played it. I've been playing it since 2009 and 2010. So that's lasted 6 or 7 years, based almost only on the merit of its couch co-op. Its story is pretty good. I've played it through a few times, but whenever I crack it back out these days, it's always just for that terrorist time.
Mm-hmm. And it's always a substantial amount of fun.
It is always a blast. So
let us know in the comment section below what your thoughts towards Couch Co-op are, and what game, if you could think of like your nostalgic Couch Co-op game, which would it be? For you, it would obviously be
Vegas 2.
Vegas 2. And for me, it's an N64 game for sure. Probably like a Smash Bros. Or a Mario Kart 64. It's such like a iconic. You can't not pick those games.
Yeah.
So let us know what your game would be, and if you agree with us, if you disagree with us, why do you disagree with us? Even though you shouldn't, you'd be a fool to disagree with us. But thanks for sticking around, guys. I'm Seb.
And I'm Gavin.
And we're Joystick Jargon. See ya.
See ya later.